boyfriend took our rent money and dipped.
I invested it. This is our future. Come on, man.
One of Them Days follows a day's worth of chaos that roommates and best friends Drew and Alyssa go through after Alyssa's deadbeat homosexual-ass boyfriend steals their rent money, prompting their landlord to evict them if they don't have the rent to him by the end of the day. But one of them days should be called one of them days you have if your friend is determined to f your life up, because absolutely everything that happened in the movie was Alyssa's fault. And Drew is a saint for managing to love and value her friendship so much that she doesn't beat her ass on at least 10 occasions. So without further ado, here are the 10 times everything was Alyssa's fault. The movie opens up showing us Drew working her ass off at the diner she works at, while her customers somehow try to reward her for that hard work by trying to set up with who look like Tyler Perry. Oh my God. The audience is immediately made aware that Alyssa is predictably unreliable by the fact that she pulls up to pick Drew up from work and she's immediately begging Drew to forgive her for being late. But Drew knew Alyssa was gonna be late, so she gave her an earlier time to pick her up, knowing that was the only way she'd actually get her ass there on time. Now let me say this out the gate. SZA was amazing in this movie. She stole the show the moment she got on the screen. I actually felt about SZA's performance in this movie the way I felt about Cameron and Paid in Full, which was awe. You don't expect a musician who hasn't ever acted to jump into a leading role and smoke it, but smoke it she did. She made this character so fun, lovable, and real that despite the fact that the entire movie's events are her fault, you never wonder why Drew is her friend or find yourself wishing Drew would cut her off, because she's so likable. You actually wish you kind of had a friend like her. Every second she's on the screen is a joy, and for me, she really stole the show. So, Drew avoided waiting in the parking lot for an hour, only to get home to much bigger problems because Alyssa's homosexual ass boyfriend Keyshawn is not only in their crib, but apparently he's been there for 6 months rent-free, and he's wearing Drew's robe. Oh my God. This is the first time we learn the magnitude in which Alyssa be having Drew up. Because it's one thing to have a bum-ass boyfriend who ain't shit and don't give a about you. It's another thing entirely to move said bum-ass to you and your friend's apartment that's already falling apart and y'all already struggling to pay the rent in. And it's extra up because not only is Alyssa's jobless bum-ass boyfriend in the crib paying not nary a bill, we later learn that Alyssa don't have a job her damn self. She's an artist who never puts her art out or sells it, so I can't imagine she's pulling her weight to help Drew with the bills as it is. Anyhow, and just in case you were wondering why Alyssa is letting a bum-ass marinate in her crib, we quickly learn why when Drew asks for her robe back and he takes it off to reveal what every woman unfortunate enough to have experienced a homosexual knows. They slang dick. And in this case, Keyshawn slang big dick. I have to stop. And I think this is the perfect time for me to sing Joshua David Neal's praises. If you didn't know, Joshua David Neal was a social media content creator, and I remember when he let his followers know that he wanted to have a serious acting career, and he was worried that all his skits and funny social media videos were detracting from that goal. So he decided to pivot what he was doing with his content and lock in. So I cannot tell you how happy I was just to see him casted in this movie. But not only was he in the movie, he killed it. So shout out to him. So Drew is annoyed by Keyshawn, but she doesn't have time to deal with dignitized ass Alyssa because she has an important job interview at 4 o'clock. So she goes to take a nap. But before my girl could even close her eyes good, she hears somebody banging on the door, and it's a disgruntled Nigerian landlord, Uche, who mad as because they didn't pay the rent, which confuses the out of Drew because she knows she gave Alyssa the rent money to pay, and Alyssa told her she paid it. So she goes to Alyssa's room where she's laid out because Keyshawn done laid her out, if you know what I'm saying, to ask Alyssa why the Uche thinks their rent isn't paid, only for Alyssa to inform her that she gave Keyshawn the rent money, which is crazy. And not only did she give the jobless homosexual who don't know nothing about paying no rent their rent money, what do you think Keyshawn did with that money? He absconded with it. Alyssa had one job. Oh my God. So now they gotta track down ass Keyshawn, and they quickly realize this left Alyssa's house where he's freeloading to go freeload off a bitch he cheating on Alyssa with named Big Booty Bernice. Oh my God. And it's worth mentioning that Alyssa knew this was messing with Big Booty Bernice for like a week and still gave this bum ass the money they need to make sure they keep the roof over their head. So it's now Drew getting her beauty rest to prepare for the interview. She has to now go with Alyssa to track down this at Big Booty Bernice's house where he's laid the up. So Alyssa sneaks into Bernice's place while Drew distracts her, but the plan goes awry because not only has Keyshawn spent all the money on Coochie t-shirts, Bernice catches them, and immediately this bitch starts running after these bitches like her life depends on it. I'm talking knees, too, chest, and Alyssa's dumbass done got the car towed because she insisted on parking where the sign clearly indicated she couldn't. So now they gotta run for their lives on foot because a gangster bitch with a red weave and a fat ass running them down like Usain Bolt with the Spirit of Vibes cartel. Oh my God. Lucky for them though, someone opens their car door right as Bernice is running by, and this bitch gets winked in front of the whole hood, giving them the chance to get away. Unfortunately for them though, after getting up like that in front of everyone, Bernice decides she obviously has no choice but to kill these bitches. So her mission for the movie begins. So now they not only have to figure out where the they're gonna come up with $1,500 for their rent by 6 p.m., but they've got to do it all on foot because the car gone. So no money, no car, all Alyssa's fault. So they try to go to one of those payday loan places where Lucky, played by Cat Williams, is outside trying desperately to get these bitches not to go inside. Because as he puts it to them,
if you don't have the money this month, you're not gonna have it next month.
But Drew's credit is ass and Alyssa don't got no credit. So they get laughed out of there by this actress that I swear makes a cameo in everything I watch these days. Love it for her. So, desperate for cash, they head to a blood bank, and poor Drew trying to do anything to get the rent paid. So she goes to give all her damn blood because the nurse, played by hilarious ass Janelle James, don't got the faintest clue that human beings need blood in their bodies to live. And Alyssa, unhelpful ass, falls asleep. So by the time she wakes up, poor Drew is clinging to life. Now, remember, Alyssa is a up. So when she goes to stop Drew from giving any more blood, she it up and ends up splashing this girl blood all over the room, all over everybody in the room. So now Drew don't got no blood and she don't get the money for the donation. So no blood and no rent money. All they got for their troubles was some free apple pie vouchers from Popeyes. But I want to remind you, they ain't got no car. So now they gotta walk through the drive-thru on foot, and they look crazy as because they had to wear the borrowed clothes from the blood bank, because remember, Alyssa get all the gal blood on it. So now Alyssa is dressed like Fran Pine's grandmother in The Nanny, and Drew is dressed like an uncomfortable dollar store stripper. And if that wasn't bad enough, like she ain't shame enough walking through the drive-thru looking like that. As they're walking through the drive-thru looking crazy as to retrieve their vouchered apple pies, the fine-ass maniac that Drew likes pulls up. And let me just say, eye candy. Casting? Outdid yourself. The man was fine. Anyway, again, all Alyssa's fault. But to Alyssa's credit, she does steal some Jordans off the electricity line like she thinks she didn't Bow Wow and Like Mike, and they sell those J's to Lil Rel for the rent money. So, mission accomplished. They at least got the rent money, right? Okay, but not so fast. In case anyone forgot, Drew still has her job interview, but they don't have any time to go back home for the change, so Drew is forced to attend an interview dressed like a Rite Aid stripper with a big ass blaze over it. Oh my God. And lucky enough for her, she somehow still manages to charm the interviewers. So ask yourselves, how is Alyssa gonna this up for her? Remember, I told y'all, they on a mission to get their rent money, but big booty Bernice is still on a mission to take them out the game. So she been driving around looking for them all day, making Keyshawn text Alyssa to find out where they are. And Keyshawn don't got no choice but to do what she says, because he for shelter, and Alyssa done catch him cheating, so he gotta stay on Bernice's good side if he want a place to lay his head tonight. So Keyshawn been texting Alyssa since the moment they got away, but Drew sensibly told Alyssa not to reply. But as soon as Drew leaves Alyssa's sight just long enough to do an interview, the moment Keyshawn texts Alyssa, her dumbass replies. She somehow figures she gonna flex on a man who don't give a about her by taking a picture with the man who just sold her a drink outside. And that's all. That is all Bernice needed to recognize the background. So she speeds over there and starts beating the dog shit out of Alyssa. Oh my God. I was like, girl, fight back. And let me say this. Keyshawn is a Hall of Fame because it's one thing to cheat on your bitch. It's one thing to cheat on your bitch. It's another thing to cheat on your bitch and steal her rent money. And it's a whole other thing to cheat on your bitch, steal her rent money, and assist your side bitch in her quest to your bitch up. Oh my God, madness, ballum. So now Alyssa's getting her ass beat in broad daylight in public in front of her man, and it ain't enough to get her ass beat. She has the nerve to start calling out Drew's name for help, like, bitch, do you want her to get this job or not? So Drew feels compelled to run outside, and I don't know why, child, because she was in no help. Because all that happens is Bernice beats the dog shit out of both these bitches. I mean, and not only she beat these bitches, she take the rent money for her trouble. So now Drew done job opportunity, got her ass beat, and still about to get evicted. L after L after L brought to her by Alyssa. So now Drew finally snaps. I'm telling you, this girl is the most patient bitch in the history of Black friendship. Because I'd have slapped the shit out of Alyssa when I got home to that my robe. But Drew finally turns up on Alyssa. And you believe Alyssa has the nerve to turn up on her, cuss her ass out, and tell her it's not her fault? I say, oh my God. Oh my God, bitch, it is your fault. The audacity on that bitch is crazy. Anyway, and when it rains, it pours. So in the middle of them spiraling and crashing out in the street, it's then that the neighborhood gangster calls them to inform them that the shoes they stole for their rent money were actually his, and they have till 11 o'clock to get him $5,000 for them, or he could send them to meet God. So now they not only need $1,500 for rent they don't have, they now need $5,000 for the hood reaper, and they don't have it. So it should come as no surprise that when they go home, they find all their stuff out on the curb. But lucky enough for them, their new naive white neighbor brought to them by gentrification appears and sees their stuff on the curb and decides to buy one of Alyssa's art pieces, which is how Drew comes up with this genius idea for them to have the white girl invite all her friends to the courtyard for them to sell Alyssa's art to rich white hipsters so they could make all the money they need. And they do make all the money. They make all the money they need to pay their rent and to kill a hood. And you know what Alyssa decided to do? Not pay the. She decides they should run from the with a gun rather than give him his money. Oh my God. Oh my God. And of course they managed to make it out alive and everything worked out because it's a movie. But it don't change the fact that Alyssa was playing with Drew's life the entire movie. Now here are my final and overall thoughts about this movie. The moment I first got wind that Issa Rae was producing a movie starring Keke Palmer and SZA, I knew that I was gonna have my ass in the theater the day it came out, and that's exactly what the I did. And I am so glad I did, because 10 minutes in, I knew this was a movie I was gonna watch for the rest of my days. An instant classic. I laughed from beginning to end, and I was so grateful it was funny as shit, because you know when something's made just for you, so you're scared something's gonna go awry, that your expectations are gonna be too high and leave you underwhelmed? Because if you don't know, you now know that I love Issa Rae. Issa Rae is probably the only person alive walking this earth that you'll ever hear me say I admire and truly find aspirational. And I have felt that way since I was a sophomore in college, watching the Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl in my dorm room and her now lost media Ratchet Peace Theater. If you know, you know. So Issa's rise and continued elevation is near and dear to my heart. And I also love SZA and the multi-hyphenate that is Keke Palmer, who I've been watching transform and re-evolve since I was a child. So getting a movie designed to feed Black women, starring Black women I love, produced by a Black woman I love, and also written by a Black woman, Sarita Singleton, that I want to see win. My hopes were sky high, and I was not disappointed. I would honestly go as far as to say this was better than Friday. Listen, or at the very least, I preferred it. I would probably go back to this movie way more than I ever turned on Friday. And I know that it's blasphemous to who love Friday and have a hard time believing that anything new can be better than the work it was inspired by. But you know what? Shoot me with your big gun. I think this is one of the rare occasions where something gets done bigger and better. And my primary reason for thinking that is the ensemble cast. Not to take anything away from the many iconic lines, characters, and actors Friday gave us. But there are also a lot of characters Craig and Smokey come across who do not make or break the film. A lot of them are just there. Whereas in One of Them Days, every single cameo and character they come into contact with is hilarious. Joshua Neal, Cat Williams, Lil Rel, Janelle James, Keela, Amin Joseph. Everyone adds something to the movie and gives you a real life laugh when they're on scene. They even had Desi Banks and Tony Baker. Shout out to our online creators. I think they did a good job at refreshing, updating, and upgrading the theme and vibes of familiar classics like Friday. It gave us something new in the friendship it depicted and the emotions it elicited. And I know we've gotten a couple, and I do mean a couple, of these kinds of buddy films between Black women friends in the form of stuff like BAPS, but I don't think I've ever seen it done with a friendship like Drew and Alyssa's that felt so relatable, which isn't unintentional because the movie is marketed as a comedic love letter to regular degular Black girls. Those regular degular black girls being the main protagonists, Drew and Alyssa, played by Keke Palmer and SZA. Drew and Alyssa are supposed to be the regular degular black girls in the Issa Rae universe. For women who maybe didn't see themselves in the Issa D's, the Mollys, or even the Kellys and the Tiffanys and Insecure, as those black women speak to a particular kind of black woman's experience, I guess a kind of upper middle class one. So Drew and Alyssa are for the regular degular black girls. But I think that's what makes this movie feel so relatable, hilarious, and timeless, is that in one way or another, all black women are regular degular black girls. While I know that if I were a character in the Issa Rae universe, I would definitely be an Insecure, but I still feel every core element of one of them days, because I know what it's like to have one of those days where everything that can go wrong is going wrong. I know what it's like when your best friend insists on being on inconvenient bullshit, but she's your bitch, so you gotta ride for her. I know what it's like to be digmatized into a lapse of judgment. I know what it's like to have f***ed up, embarrassing ass credit. I've been there. I know what it's like to be working my ass off to try to advance professionally when the cards are stacked against me. I think we all know what it's like. Even if we're not Drew or Alyssa today, I think most of us remember when we were, which is why I think it's especially dope that Drew and Alyssa live at the same apartment complex Issa D lived in Insecure. Although Issa lives in the Dunes in Insecure, which is a real apartment complex in real life that I have visited, and it appears to have another name in one of them days, like it's not the exact actual apartment complex, but for all intents and purposes, it models that complex, which I love because it reminds the viewer that the Issas and Mollys are just Drews and Alyssas at different points in their journey, that the regular degular black girls and the however you want to classify Issas and Mollys are the same women. Because Issa begins Insecure in the Dunes in a situation very similar to Drew's, but she doesn't end there. Just like it won't be Drew and Alyssa's final resting spot. I don't know if that was an intentional choice or something Issa or the writer, Sarita Singleton, wanted us to take away, but it is what I took away. What I do know was intentional though, was to celebrate LA and expand the Issa Rae universe of characters, because Issa Rae always celebrates LA, specifically Black LA, in everything she makes. And one of them days actually makes a couple of nods to Insecure and Awkward Black Girl with We Got You. So if you haven't seen this movie, take your ass to the theater now. I promise that you won't regret it. The shit was funny.
Y'all should subscribe to the Patreon. I put, for the people who want to hear me doing all my cursing, we put the uncensored versions of every recap on the Patreon. So do that.